Hi friends, it's Ashley from Ashley's Paper Heart, and today we are doing another Sketchbook Sunday. I am so happy to be doing another sketchbook video. I really tried to get one out last week, but things got busy, how it is with little kids. It's just, you can never predict how busy you are going to be from week to week. So, anyway, to start off, I tried something a little bit different, something that I learned in the sketchbook habit class that I'm taking. I am starting with toning the paper. Now, I typically don't do this when I'm beginning a painting in a sketchbook. I sometimes will do it when I'm working on a larger painting, like on canvas, but I have yet to do it in a sketchbook. It was something that the instructor had talked about doing herself, and I wanted to try it. So this is what I'm using is Liquitex acrylic ink. And so the benefit is that it's not going to lift up when if it gets like re-wet from the paint. So it's giving me like a permanent base without having to have all the white of the paper showing through while I'm painting. So the reason why I chose blue ink to use for toning the paper is because the majority of the painting, at least the focal point of the painting, is orange because I'm painting mandarin oranges. And because blue is the complementary color to orange, hopefully it will make things seem more vibrant, at least by having the blue in proximity to the orange. But I'm also hoping that some of it will show through the orange paint that I'm putting down. Although I think I layered it a little too thick for that to happen. But that's kind of like the whole thought process of why I decided to go with blue. Plus it's a really pretty blue. It's a very like I think it's called like nautical blue. Actually, I don't think it's Liquitex. I think it's sorry, I have it on my desk right now I'm looking at. It's actually Dr. Peach Martin. But it's the same thing. It's acrylic, liquid acrylic ink. So when I first did this drawing, I wasn't initially going to paint it. I was going to keep it a pencil sketch, but I really wasn't happy with how the pencil sketch turned out. I am, I don't know. I do a lot of sketching, but I don't typically do a whole lot of, I guess, shading when I'm working in pencil. And so I tried to shade these and they just didn't look right. I feel like the top orange was a little bit more successful when it came to the shading than the bottom orange, but I don't know. And it also didn't help that I was using like a standard mechanical pencil. And so drawings that I am doing later on in the sketchbook, I'm actually using sketching pencils so that I can have a variety of softness versus hardness in the lead, which helps a lot if you're trying to build up value. I definitely did not do a great job with the mechanical pencil. I'm not typically, I guess I've been using mechanical pencils mostly because when I sketch in the Hobonichi, the paper I don't think would handle like some of the sketching pencils that I would use normally on a actual sketchbook. So I've just become accustomed of having those kinds of pencils on my desk, and I had to dig out my sketching pencils. So now that they're out, I will be using them moving forward. So another good thing about toning the paper is that putting down that layer of acrylic ink also locked in the pencil. That way the graphite doesn't smudge or anything when I'm painting on top of it. And so for the actual paint, I'm using acrylic gouache again. For the same reason why I'm using the acrylic ink is that once that paint dries, it doesn't come up again. So it's permanent once it's dry. If you're using traditional gouache, and I know I said this in my other video, you can lift up some of the bottom layers. So you have to be careful with how wet your brush is, um, how much paint you have on it, and if you don't want to lift up previous layers. But with this, that kind of takes all that out, and you still get the beautiful matte look that gouache has. You just get the benefits of how you would use, or the benefits of acrylic paint as well. So this was actually the first full week of prompts and working in my sketchbook daily. On the left side, you see what I did for day one. Now, I don't know if I'm going to go back and paint that in later or what. I'm considering it. A lot of the drawings that I've done, I haven't been able to do like full paintings or even like full shading on them just for time's sake. But I'm still calling it a win because I'm working in my sketchbook daily no matter how detailed or how far along I get in a drawing. I at least know that I have been putting in the work this week. And so I don't know. Maybe I'll go back later and paint all these in. But I actually kind of like the cleaned up line drawing on the left. So who knows? It might just be like what I'm in the mood for that day. So I've had some thoughts while I've been working in my sketchbook daily. It's definitely there have definitely been days where I have not felt like drawing, um, but I kind of just push through it. I think a lot of times when I'm working on art, I really wait until I feel motivated or like inspired, but I think what this is kind of like driving home is that I can draw even if I don't feel inspired, and I don't have to feel like super motivated to kind of, bust out a 20-minute drawing. Like the actual drawing part, may only take like 10 to 20 minutes. Now, if I sit down and paint it, I think this in real time took me like an hour to do, but then like I also got up and I got some water and I had to go find supplies like in the middle of it. So, you know, maybe closer to 45 minutes. And I know that I could get that down if I wasn't like fussing with it as much. But that, honestly, that's just kind of my style. I don't know. I really like when I'm painting being able to push and pull the values back and forth until they feel just right. And I just feel like it's much more of a natural process to do that with paint as opposed to working with pencil. Maybe it's because I don't work with pencil a whole lot. Maybe I'm just out of practice. I don't know. But I did enjoy going back and painting these oranges again. Now, there were a few prompts that I was really not excited about, and I know I had the option to not paint that specific thing that the prompt called for because most of the prompts are pretty open ended. They may give like a few different options or say, if you don't have an idea of what you want to draw today, draw this. But one of the prompts this week was hands, and most people, myself included, I hate drawing hands. I really, really hate it. Hands are complicated and they're really easy to mess up. And so I I was really not looking forward to that day. And I did draw the hands. I used my own hand as reference, and honestly, I was surprised. They didn't come out perfect, but they came out pretty darn passable. And so what I'm realizing is that I'm also kind of using some of the techniques that I picked up when I was working with a private art instructor. Um, I'd say maybe like, has it been like 6 months? Maybe like 6 months ago, I found a fine art studio out here, like a private studio, and I contacted them about getting some private lessons because I wanted to do more figurative drawing. And so I wanted just kind of a refresher course because I hadn't really been doing a whole lot of figurative drawing since college, and that was ages ago, like 12, 13 years ago. And so I had been actively avoiding figure drawing just because it's tough. Honestly, like to me, drawing the human form is a lot tougher than drawing just about anything else. So, when I was working with the instructor, I learned a lot about really observing what I'm trying to draw and drawing more of the angles and shapes as opposed to trying to draw the actual thing. I know that that may sound confusing, but something that artists will do sometimes if like they're struggling, and I do it myself, is that if I'm really struggling with trying to do, like, if I'm working from like a reference photo and I'm really struggling with it, sometimes I'll flip the reference photo upside down and draw, basically, obviously flip my canvas upside down and draw like that, because then it no longer looks like you're not looking at the actual object, you're looking at the shape of the object. So it kind of like helps trick your mind into paying more attention to that instead of like your mind telling you what it thinks it sees. Because honestly, drawing is, I'd say, maybe 80% observation and 20%, you know, skills with your hands. Like if you can write letters, you can draw, because writing words, writing letters is essentially just drawing. It's just something that we have so ingrained in us. It's muscle memory. At that point, you don't even think about it. And what I find when I've like helped people learn how to draw is that a lot of times people will be so focused on what's on the paper, what they're drawing, and not focused on the reference, that's where the trouble really begins, because then your mind is telling you what it thinks it looks like, and minds are fickle things. We don't really know what something looks like unless we're actually looking at it. And I think once you kind of really nail down the observational part of it, then you can start going through and breaking the rules and changing the perspective or the ratio of how something looks. I think I'm a firm believer in learning the rules before you break them. And so learning how to draw I'm not going to say like photorealism, because God, I can't even do that, but learning how to draw in a way that is somewhat realistic, I think can be a big help, because then you can start, how can you change something to give it more style after you've learned how to actually interpret what you're looking at onto paper. So those were the kind of big takeaways that I had this week from working in my sketchbook. I definitely learned to slow down, to look at what I'm doing, and to kind of like really be in the moment when I'm drawing something. And even if I wasn't like incredibly excited, I think too that was another takeaway, was that I don't have to be like in the right mood. And I'm using quotations, air quotes. There's no such thing as the right mood. And if I wait for the right mood, I may never paint. I may never draw. I may never make that next piece. So I guess that's kind of what I'm going to give to you as well, is that there's no such thing as the right mood. You make the space, make the time, do the work, show up, and the right mood will follow. So now that we're getting towards the end of the video, I really hope that you enjoyed this sketchbook video. I do plan on continuing this, maybe not every week, but hopefully at least every other week. So if you like this video, don't forget to give me a thumbs up and comment and subscribe, and tell me down in the comments, what have you been working on? What are you making space for in your life right now? Anyway, I will see you guys in the next one. Bye.